Hello, good morning. Hello, hello. Grand rising, beautiful people. There we go, just switching my mic over. That's better. How is everyone? Just lighting some sage. Hello. Hello, hello, everybody. Good morning. Hi, Patrine. Hi, Connie. Hi, Michelle. How is everyone today? Hi, Chandrika. Hi, Lori. Hi, Jill. How is everyone? Good morning, Donna. Hi, Amma. Hi, Lori. Hi, Lynn. How are you feeling today, Lynn? You feeling any different? Hi, Connie. My son looked at me like, huh? You could say hi. Hi, Owen. How's it going, Owen? Good morning, everybody. Hi, Nikki. Happy Friday. Hi, Brandy. It's good to see all of you. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who came to our attunement yesterday. I'm sorry I had to duck out early. I forgot that I had that engagement with Aaron Saniva. I got to hang out with Ramara for an hour yesterday, which was really nice. Love asking questions to Ramara. So I'm sorry I had to duck out. I double booked myself yesterday without recognizing it. So I I did the Reiki attunement, and then at 2:00 I had to jump over with Aaron. So I was a bit like, whoo, I was in trance, like full trance. And it's a good thing I set my alarm for 2 p.m. because I was completely out of it. I felt amazing after that attunement, though. And Ramara took one look at me and she goes, "Wow, you have a big pillar of light coming out of your crown." I was like, okay, good to know. Like, very nice. Lynn says, "I feel calmer today. Thank you. You're so welcome. Glad to hear it. Hopefully, it'll help with some of the pain you were experiencing." Hope you guys are having a great week so far. Happy Friday to everyone. Anybody have anything interesting to discuss? I want to check and see if the energies have calmed down at all because yesterday we had some mega flares going on. I want to see if it's a bit calmer today. As you can see, the geomag was spiking quite high yesterday. Anybody see any auroras last night? Especially you guys in Canada, you probably did see a couple. We did have some flares as well, but nothing too chaotic. Let's see what the Schumann's doing. Schumann had a lot of activity as well yesterday. So who knows what's going on with the Schumann. Michelle does her attunement tomorrow. How exciting. We also have an attunement, at 10 o'clock tonight? That'll be fun. So can we play music and be on the Zoom for the attunement? Well, actually, no, because this is why Tina and I have to go into a trance to be able to do the attunement. So we won't be able to stay on camera and kind of like lead a guided meditation. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Unless we were to have a third person. But Bettina and I are very busy with the actual attunement, making sure that everybody's energy centers are opened, making sure their guides are authentic. Everybody got a clearing yesterday. And it was great to see you, by the way, Summer. If we have had an attunement, do we need another one? You know, in the actual Reiki school, the one in Tokyo, they do attunements weekly. I think of an attunement as kind of like an upgrade. You know how you have to like upgrade your apps because sometimes there's some bugs in the apps, or sometimes they want to upgrade something within the app. It's kind of what an attunement is. It's an upgrade. So if you had an attunement, then yeah, you did receive an energy opening in your vortices of your hands and other your areas of your chakras. You have 88 chakras, just for those of you who aren't aware. And so, there's a lot of activations that can occur even further and ongoing. Just because you open it a little bit doesn't mean it can't be opened more and more and more. There's always more expansion, you guys. So yeah, you can always get more than one attunement. In fact, I know one person in our class has had 16. This was her 16th level 1, or what do you call it? Yeah, 16th Reiki course, which is pretty amazing. So that means she's had 16 attunements. And she knew her stuff. I was very impressed with how knowledgeable she was. And then she told us why. And we're like, oh, okay. But you learn something with every new attunement, and you have an upgrade every time. So yeah. I listened to flute music. That is what I listened to at first, and then the flute music wasn't doing it for me, so I switched to drums, and then I was out. Like, listen to the flute music for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, I just feel very relaxed. And then I put on drums, like shamanic drumming, and I was gone. Like, shamanic drumming always works to get me into a trance. And it's a good thing I set my alarm, because I don't know if I would have snapped out of it in time for the chat with Ramara if I hadn't. When I do Reiki on myself now, my hands get all hot, and I haven't even had my attunement yet. Well, you've already set the intention for having your hands be activated. So yeah, you could have already self-attuned in a way. So that's so you should notice some heat, some tingling, and a few other things just in regards to your energy centers kind of firing up. Nice to see you, Dale. Hello. Hi, Pauline. I'm with Buffy on this though. Drums are the best when it comes to getting you into that right mindset. So for those of you who haven't had your attunement yet and you really want to go deep when you're going into your trance meditation, I highly recommend drums. Drums are the best in my opinion, just in my experience so far. Just to kind of get you into that vibration. In fact, it's kind of hard when I'm in person listening to drums. It's hard for me not to go into trance. I have to focus hard to not go that far under. Hi, Jenny. So any questions? Hi, Kat. Hi, Star. You have your attunement tomorrow. How exciting. You guys are going to be wanting Reiki to everything. Just for the record, you're going to be Reikiing everything. You're like, oh, I'm going to Reiki my hot sauce that I have sitting here. Like, all right, I've infused my hot sauce with lots of love and light and powerful healing energy. Like, you can literally do it to anything. You can Reiki your crystals if you have, some crystals that you're often wearing, or you get some new ones like I just got. I got a couple really great ones that I've been meaning to post and thank John and Michael in the Moldavite Space Pickle group, because I just love these bracelets. One is shungite and one is meteorite. So they look the same, and they both have like a Libyan desert glass thing. So when you receive something like this in the mail, you never know where the energy is, so you just Reiki. Put it in your hand, say, I remove anything negative to this, and I send healing to myself, and you just cleanse any negative energy and ill intent, and it's done. You just infuse it. Are you doing a lost soul rescue tonight? I don't know. I'm still trying to track down a medium for that, because 2 of my mediums are busy today. I'm going to try, but it doesn't look good, just for the record. Because there's a lot going on right now. Everybody's got their kids. I have Aiden today. Aiden is on spring break, so it does make it a bit complicated when we all have children, because we are all very busy with our kids as well. So I have to go to the farmer's market and take little man with me today. So I don't know. I would love to manifest that. So it depends on whether or not I have an SRT medium that is available, because that is the one prerequisite, is that we always have at least one SRT certified medium on the call, because we will guaranteed run into beasties. So that is the only prerequisite for doing those, which is why when we have more people that are trained to do this, more certified mediums, it'll be even easier. And we could do several of these a week, which I would love to do. Otherwise, how else are we going to catch up with some of this stuff that I want to be clearing? Which is really exciting, because you never know. I've been having a great time teaming up with some of these other mediums. In fact, Bradley, Adriana, and Kat and we all sat down. I forgot to mention this last week. This was last Friday. So we all sat down just to get some practice clearings, because I'm just kind of making sure that, because Kat's been doing SRT for a long time, just not the way that we do it. So I'm kind of showing her the ropes of how we do spirit release. And we decided to do some more practice stuff. So they said, well, just pick a location. So I was like, all right, what's the biggest hospital in, the area? So the biggest hospital near me, since I live in Pennsylvania, is the Harrisburg Memorial. There's a very large hospital in downtown Harrisburg. Harrisburg is the capital of Pennsylvania, for those of you who don't know. So it's a large area, even though there's not that many people in Harrisburg. And so this is a large hospital. We're talking like 500 beds. So Bradley and called in his Engen guides, and Adriana went into a trance. So Zach came forward, and we were talking with Zach, and we're chatting with Kat. And as many of you know, Kat's guide is Merlin. And so we said, all right, let's go tackle this hospital. So we all surrounded the hospital. Like all the soul guides, that's what we do. We come to an area that we want to clear, is we just surround it. It's kind of like astral SWAT. When you call in the cavalry, we just kind of circle the area and make sure nothing escapes. Well, as we were doing that, a level 4 came out of the building. There's lots of different types of level 4s, and we don't often discuss the level 4s because they are very rare. In fact, to find one, I've only found, I think, maybe 5 or 6 of them in the past 3,000 clearings I've done, give or take. So for those of you who are wondering what it is, it's a more advanced form of what we're already clearing usually. So what we removed was an armored Lizzie. It's like an armored Lizzie. And I had like flashbacks of like playing Turok in my head where they had like all these armored dinosaurs and stuff. And I'm like, really? An armored Lizzie? And they said, yeah, there was an armored one that was in the hospital. And it was so powerful that it was actually weakening all the other dark entities in the building. That is how powerful it was. So there's always, entities that are feeding off of people in the building, but this one was so powerful. It was not only feeding off of the patients in the hospital and the doctors and all the nursing staff, but actually off of the entities as well. And I was like, holy shit. So yeah, I was really surprised at that because we're finding all these interesting ones. And I was like, what makes this one a level 4? And they said how old it is. Because I didn't know some of these can live. Well, I did know that some of the bigger ones could, but these ones live 10,000 years. And the technology that it had, it was so powerful. It almost looked like it was wearing infinity gauntlets. Like, you guys have seen the movie, what is that? Oh my God. Was with the guy that did I don't watch Marvel very often, as you can tell. But anyway, the big gauntlet with the crystals in it, that one, he had 2 of them, right? And once he had these 2 big gloves, when he slapped them together is when he was pulling like waves of energy in. And that's how he was weakening the entities around him. Every time he would smack his gloves, that's what would happen. It would just absorb all of this energy and bring forth all this energy in the hospital, and he would absorb it into himself. So as we go and encircle the hospital, this is what comes running out of the fucking hospital. It was a big armored Lizzie. Yes, Endgame. You guys know what I'm talking about. Exactly. So it came running out of the hospital and tried to get away. And so we captured it. It was not easy to capture. Marlon was watching. He was working with Kat, obviously. So he removed the technology from it. Just gone. Like, you don't deserve this, is what he said. Sorry, taken. And it's a long story, but we ended up clearing hundreds of earthbounds, tons and tons of entities from that hospital. But the most important thing was retrieving those gauntlets. And I asked where they come from. And they said, no, they were stolen ET technology. And I was like, what do you mean stolen? And they said they literally went on a ship, killed everyone on the ship, and took their technology. And I asked, why was the technology here? Like, what kind of ET was it? And they said, well, it's none you've ever heard of. This is a new type of ET that people don't really know about. They don't really come here very often. And I was like, well, I don't really blame them, considering they came here to try and help us. In fact, I asked, what was the purpose of those gloves they were using? And they told me it was actually used for growing things on their homeworld. So they take it to places that have, it's kind of like Mars, you know what I mean? When there's been a lot of damage to that planet, it helps to grow things a lot faster. And so it could do like 10,000 years worth of healing in like a much shorter period of time. So they're like made for healing planets. And instead of using them that way, Lizzie stole them and then was using them to just literally fatten up their own energy reserves. We're using them to siphon energy. So not only was it a big deal that we captured this special type of Lizzie, but to have those gauntlets back, that technology that we returned back to that one race, they were extremely grateful, to the point where I felt a mini bliss out. Like as they were thanking us, all of a sudden I felt like this shimmer of energy, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is that feeling? It's like every cell in your body gets tickled. It's the only way I could put it. And that's what it felt like. I just felt so tickled with love. I guess if there's a better way of putting it, I can't think of it right now. But after that session, that was one of the most powerful sessions I've ever done. And knowing that we were able to do this as a group makes it even more empowering. Like that we could take down a whole hospital and a big ass Lizzie that was armored, like, you know, like aimed to the teeth with all these things. Because I mean, some of these Lizzies are pretty formidable anyway, but to find an armored one, we were all kind of like, we'd never found one like this before. This is completely new. So we were really shocked to hear about the Lizzie in the lab coat like 2 weeks ago. And that's when we decided, like, wow, this is amazing. I never thought about the fact that they might be wearing clothing, to now be finding them in full suited armor. So yeah, that was pretty amazing. And I forgot to even mention it on the podcast on Monday. So I thought I would mention the story today, considering I'm still kind of tickled about it. And I also thought to myself, was that meant to be? Was I like intuitively just choosing that hospital? Or was that just, I mean, random? I don't believe in random or coincidence. Maybe that's why I had the thought to clear the hospital in the first place. I don't know. But it is very interesting that so many of it was almost like going through, you know what it reminds me of? I know I'm always talking about how life is a video game, but it reminds me of like going on a quest and then finding a big chest at the end with a really badass armor in it. It's kind of what it reminded me of. And I've been kind of giggling about it to myself all week about like, yeah, that was a cool boss that we got rid of. Right? That was pretty cool armor that we got at the end of that last quest. It does make this work even more interesting and exciting and confusing at the same time, because you're like, what? Like, how is this even a thing? So yeah, clearing the hospital is just the tip of the iceberg, Michelle says. True that. Sherry says that Lizzie dropped some epic loot. Yeah, he did. But yeah, I do find it very interesting that we're finding all of these exciting things right now, and I don't think it's a coincidence either. You just looted 5-tier armor. Yes, exactly. I love it. So yeah, you just never know what you're gonna find. And I love doing Lost Soul Rescue for that reason, because that was why I went into the hospital. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was the best result that I was hoping for, was just to cross over some Earthbounds. I didn't recognize we'd be catching a level 4 hiding in the building. And I was asking what it was doing. It was attaching itself to doctors. It would just, but whoever was the best snack of the day, it would have just attached itself to that doctor. So I do wonder, because we cleared the entire hospital, we cleared the staff, we cleared everything. So I do wonder how much the vibration of that hospital has gone up. And I sat down with my parents for dinner, and I told them about it, because I tell my parents everything. And my stepdad goes, oh, that's where I had my surgery last year. And I was like, what did you think of the hospital? And he goes, definitely spooky. Definitely had some shady vibes in there. And I was like, okay, I'm glad we cleared it now. Brandy says, I missed if you said it. Did the Lizzie get locked up? Always. Always. We always put them in our jail. we have the Irma that come in, and the Irma don't fuck around. Like if there's Lizzie in there messing around with stuff, they just come and capture it, and they put it in a cage, and it can't come back. And I have asked them what they do with them in the cages, and they said, well, the cages are full. And I said, well, what do you do with the cages? And they were like, I can tell you what we're not allowed to do. And I was like, I can imagine what you're not allowed to do. But in my opinion, they should just drop them into a black hole somewhere. That's probably not the the compassionate approach. I'm still working on that, trying to be compassionate for the sake of entities. But when you see them thoroughly enjoying torturing people, it makes me feel really good to lock them up. I'm not going to deny A lot of people are like, you need to have compassion for the Lizzies. I will try. I'm still working on that. I am an imperfect being. I'm trying to have compassion for Source and all of its beings. But at the same time, when you see them actively enjoying bringing somebody to the point of suicide, or, I mean, I found just the other day, right? We did a clearing on a 2-year-old and there were 2 Lizzies on her. On a 2-year-old. And I was like, why the hell are there 2 Lizzies on her? And they said, oh, they've been attached since birth. And I got so triggered. Like, let me tell you, I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, they've been attached since birth. Why? Because she's a very powerful starseed. And I was like, but she's a baby. They're like, yeah, but the consciousness isn't a baby. The vessel is a baby. But yeah, they can go in. And I said, well, does she have any contracts? They're like, yeah, there's a dark contract. And I was like, how does a baby get a dark contract? And they're like, because it's a dream state. They went into the dream state. So, like I said, lock them all up, throw away the key. Like, I'm trying to be very compassionate in regard to all beings. But when you see Lizzie's actively enjoying torturing a 2-year-old, I think they should all just F right off. So, did they get commissary? Good question, Jessica. I doubt it. I was kind of hoping the Irma would just dispatch them, but apparently they're not allowed to. If this is a video game, they can respawn, right? Like, they come back with a nicer vibration. Come back with a different attitude. Can there be Lizzies for that redeem their being and vibration? Yeah. But the guides, I did ask, like, can a Lizzie be rehabilitated? And they said, yeah, of course, everything can be rehabilitated. And I said, well, how do you rehabilitate a Lizzie? And they're like, well, it's up to the Lizzie if they want to be rehabilitated. It's entirely up to the person. You can't force a drug addict to go to, to rehab and to do all of the steps of AA and all of these things if they don't want to. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of things that get in the way of healing. And for people that are really struggling and trying to clear their addiction, it's a different story. But for people that are not ready, that don't want it, you can't force them into that. So it's kind of like, think of somebody that is a really staunch carnivore, somebody who literally only eats meat, who's never even looked at a potato, that would be disgusted if you ever tried to introduce them to broccoli or anything healthy. They'd be like, no, I only eat meat. That is it. Like, I literally eat steak all day long. I don't touch anything green. In fact, the thought of green things would disgust me, right? And you take that person, you take them out of that environment, and then you force them to be vegan. Are they going to be happy about it? No. No. Can you imagine kidnapping a human and being like a carnivore human and being like, nah, you only eat vegetables. Here's your wheat grain, here's your beet juice, Would they be happy about it? No. Would they take the first opportunity to kill you and eat you? Probably. So it's like, yeah, you probably could maybe over time convince them to go completely vegan, but it would take a lot of work, right? So this is kind of the situation they find themselves in. They have been carnivores for all of their existence, and you're going to convince them to go and eat grass? No, it's not going to happen. So this is why, many of the reptilians that exist out there in the cosmos, so to speak, there are good ones that exist out there. There's many, including like the dragons and all these others that are very high vibe, very nice reptilians, right? But they don't come here to Earth. And they don't try to kind of intermingle in the politics here because they are well aware that the darker ones have everything kind of under control. So the really, really nice reptilians, it's in most cases, if you have one of these as a soul guide, they're not going to tell you the reptilian. They're not going to tell you. They'll just say, I'm from the highest of light. And you're like, yeah, are you? You're like, yeah, I am. You'll check again. Are you from the highest of light? Yeah, I am. But you ask them what race they are, and they're like, it's none of your beeswax. Like, yes, they are from the highest of light, but if they are reptilian, in many cases, they're not going to openly admit that because they know that there's a lot of prejudice for that reason. So, well, I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to not have that prejudice when your entire planet has been controlled by them for 12,000 years or so. So if there wasn't any karmic sentence, I know more of us would take care of business. Imagine how they were trying to make Crowley more human and supernatural as the rehab. Yeah, exactly. It's a good analogy, by the way. So there's lots of very nice ones that exist out there too, and those are not the ones that I'm talking about in regards to the negative influences here on Earth. But most of the nice ones are not even here on Earth anyway. Aren't there like reptile guardians or something like that that are not negative? Yeah. As above, so below. As everything is as of light, there is of dark, and vice versa. So yeah, you get a big mix of everything. I will never forget, I actually had this conversation with my soul guides once. The very first time I had my out of body experience where they pulled me out of body to have a conversation about all this stuff. I asked them, what was the exact question? I said, are they all evil or something like that? And then they flipped it around to me. They didn't even want to answer the question. Because they immediately said to me, they're like, well, what do you consider humans to be? Do you consider humans to be kind, benevolent or malevolent? Like, what are we? And I said, well, humans are a mix. You get the malevolent ones, you get the benevolent ones, you get a mix of everything. And they said, yeah, that's how it exists through almost every single race in existence. Where you get some good ones, you get some bad ones. You get the ones that are more self-servient and more that are more selfless. It really depends on a whole lot of different factors. On Spirit World, can you have attachments like after you have passed? Oh yeah, this is why a lot of Earthbounds don't cross over. In fact, most of the Earthbounds that want to cross over and can't, that is why, is they have an entity attachment. But I'm starting to find, and I think it's because I've got my class that I'm writing for. It's almost like as I'm started writing for my spirit release course, I'm getting new learning and experience while we're working, like doing clearings and stuff, as I'm learning all kinds of things. So this week, Carolyn and I, for example, we go through this one client, right? And we get to this one. If Carolyn's watching, she's going to laugh because she knows exactly what I'm about to talk about, because it threw us into almost like a mini existential crisis when we were doing a clearing. So I said to Carolyn, for this one particular client, I said, are there any past life resonances? And she says, yes. And I don't know what behooved me to say this next. I said, are there any attachments to the past life resonance? And the guys are like, oh yeah, that past life resonance, that other version of her that exists in an alternate reality somewhere, is riddled with attachments. And I was like, so can we do a spirit release clearing on the past life resonance? And they're like, yeah, we can. I was like, does that mean that there is an entity attached to the past life resonance? Yes, there is. Does that mean that there's implants attached to that? Yes, there is. So I started doing a full clearing on the past life version of this other person. And then I said, is there a past life resonance attached to the past life resonance? And they're like, yeah, there is. And I was like, oh no. This could go on forever. Like, this could literally end up taking us through multiple fractal reality versions of ourselves, which is extremely interesting. Because I'm like, what if the past life resonance's past life resonance has attachments? Like, it does make you wonder how deep that rabbit hole goes, so to speak. It's like Inception. Or like Michelle says, like a nesting doll. Where is the center? Exactly. So it does make you wonder, like, damn, how freaking in depth are we going to have to get with this? You know what else was really interesting? So we were doing another clearing the other day on this gentleman that we've been doing multiple checks on because he's getting picked on by these Lizzies. Every time we clear him, there's more Lizzies. And I'm like, fine, I'll just keep filling the cage. I don't care. So I've kept checking this one person. Because like I said, every time we go in there, there's at least 2-3 Lizzies. And I'm like, if you're going to fish in the same spot and get a big prize winning fish every time, what do? You go back to the same spot. I'm going to get another fucking fish. So sure enough, we go back and there's a big Lizzie. And I said, how is these same Lizzies? Like, are these the same ones? No, they're different. How is this coming through? Like, where is this coming from? You know what we found? We found a cord. This was actually Merlin's brilliance that found this. So there was a cord that was as thin as a spider web. In fact, it was so thin that you couldn't actually like see it to the naked eye. The soul guides had to shine a fancy like special light on it and then look at it from a different angle. And then they could see that wispy thin cord between the guy and the reptilian that was bringing all of these Lizzies back in. So things are very exciting. I mean, you just never know what you're going to find on people. You never know what interesting, I mean, because the entities are getting more clever. As we get smarter and more clever, so do they. So, like I said, making a spider web cord, like that was clever. I'm impressed, actually. I was a bit like, you know, like, well done, but not well done enough because we figured it out. And sure enough, we checked that person the next day, and that person was still sovereign, and there were no Lizzies, and we're like, we've outfished the spot finally. So I just love this. This is one of my favorite things about all this is the experimentation and the studying all of this and the new things we learn with every single clearing. Because every single one of you are very unique. In fact, many of you are dealing with very unique situations. Which is another reason why I also wanted to discuss one thing. Because I'm going to be changing one of our groups. We've had this prepper group for forever that's not being used very much. So my plan today is to change the prepper group into a starseed support group because there's a lot of starseeds here that are on their last lifetime, or at least are wanting to be on their last lifetime here. Many of you are veterans that have been stuck here for a very long time. And I met a very wonderful, sweet veteran the other day who has been here since Atlantis. And she was very alone. She felt very sad and alone just because she doesn't have people that understands what it is to be a starseed, to have a support network, a group of people that actually resonate with all of these teachings, that can understand and keep up with all of this. It's a lot. It is a lot to be a starseed and to be confusing. And especially for those of you who are veterans like myself, who have been here a very long time and are planning on this being your last lifetime here. There needs to be more of a group that is able to help people, because in most cases, what is keeping the starseed veterans here is all of their karma and all of their baggage. You can't bring it back to your homeworld with you, right? So what is the most important thing? To heal yourself, to clear your karma, and to make sure that you have all of your boxes checked, so to speak. So that way the immigration officials will let you go. Because they're not going to let you leave this planet with all of that baggage, unfortunately. So if we work together, if we discuss this, if we are all kind of helping each other clear that baggage and that karma, then maybe we can discuss these things on an easier level. Because a lot of us, we really are ready to go the fuck home. A lot of us are like, I'm really glad that I was here. I'm really glad that I learned everything I learned, and I'm really glad I made a difference in some way, but I'm ready to say peace out and go back to my homeworld. So yes, I will be changing the collective preppers group today to be a starseed and even just a support network. Tanya had a good question. How do you clear karma? The biggest way to clear karma is through forgiveness. And Bradley and I, we asked Zach the other day because we were curious. We're like, because we know Bradley and I are on our last human lifetimes because we're both veterans. We've been here for 12,000 years and we've had enough. So we asked whether or not, what we could leave tomorrow. Like, let's say, God forbid, we were to get hit by a bus tomorrow. What would that mean? Does that mean we get to go home? No, because there's still karma to sort. Okay. What karma do we need to sort out? So we asked what is kind of still on the list that hasn't been checked off. And they said familial karma. That is the one thing that we're still trying to clear. And I'm like, familial karma. That's going to be a challenge. So yeah, whenever you are trying to sort out your familial karma, it is an opportunity for you to rehash the past. So you may notice that a lot of this is a new opportunity to find gratitude and forgiveness. Thank you, Daniel Jackson. Exactly. Gratitude and forgiveness and acceptance. If I were to say 3 words, gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance. Because if you have not been able to accept your situation for what it is, which is a learning experience, they're all learning experiences. No matter how good or bad the situation is, it's a learning experience. So, why you chose that experience, there's always a reason, and there's always something to learn from that reason. So, that is the main thing that we are meant to focus on. Because if you are going to keep dwelling on what happened rather than learning the lesson that it caused that to manifest in the first place, then it's going to keep repeating. So this is why it's so important to be able to work things out with your family. Or even if you can't work things out, then to just forgive them, accept them for who they are, forgive them, and set boundaries with them. It doesn't mean you all have to be, singing Kumbaya by the fireplace for you guys to forgive each other. You can completely cut off the people in your life and still repair the karma. Because, a lot of that is the reason why these things are occurring in the first place. Because many of us, we have tried so hard to forgive parents in the first place, or to forgive siblings, or somebody that has done us some wrong, whether it's an ex-husband or whoever it is. If we have truly accepted that person for who they are, if we have forgiven them for whatever they have done to wrong us, and if we have forgiven ourselves for putting ourselves in that position in the first place, then you cleared your karma. If you don't have any animosity, if you don't have any negativity towards this person, if you feel no regret, if you feel no remorse, if you just feel like everything is how it's supposed to be and you just accept it for that, then you're, in most cases, already cleared your karma. Chantal says you sound like my soul guides. Chantal's heard this lecture before, haven't you, Chantal? But there's a lot of star seeds that have been here for a very long time. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of healing required for some of you, considering how badly beaten down a lot of the star seeds have been. Like that 2-year-old girl I mentioned the other day that was, she did not plan any of that. And I was like, how the fuck can they do that? Can they hijack her like that? And they said, because they can. Because they can, they will. So it has nothing to do with it being a chosen plan. That was not part of that plan. They literally hijacked that starseed's plan. So you have to keep that in mind, that you may have chosen to come here to help the planet, but a lot of you ended up suffering needlessly because there were entities trying to get in the way of what you were trying to manifest here. So there's a lot of starseeds that come here thinking, oh, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do good things. I'm going to help Gaia. And then they get jumped the minute they get down here while they're still in baby form. And then they wonder why they're so miserable and why they have such tough lives. And it's like, that was not part of the plan. That was the plan that got thwarted by something else. And now you're trying to, catch up to the plan and shift things to get back on target. So it is not an easy planet for people that have dedicated their time and their lives, quite literally, to come down here and make a difference. So it is a very difficult planet in general, but for the starseeds and the people that have come here to try and shift things, it's even more challenging. And I know some of you Earth seeds are kind of like, well, what about us? Well, you guys have had a lot more opportunity to get used to it. You guys have had more opportunities to really accept Earth life for what it is. So it's almost like you guys aren't as badly affected because you're like, well, this is normal. If it's normal for you, then obviously it's not a great deal of a shock as it would be for someone that comes here for the first time. Because this is, in my opinion, and many other ETs agree, this is one of the most challenging planets in the entire cosmos. But it's also very unique. Like the things that we have here, in fact, the food is just one example of the things that we have here that don't exist on other planets. So there's all kinds of exciting reasons to want to be here on Earth and lots of things to be very grateful for. And I'm not saying that many of us are ready to leave, because a lot of Earth seeds have no intention of leaving and have actually just want to make Gaia a better place. And that is a very beautiful thing. And we are very, grateful for all of the hard work that the Earth seeds put in to healing this planet as well, because so many of them, people like Aaron, who are doing the best they can to raise this planet's frequency because they know they're going to be here for a very long time and they're already fed up with how things have been. So Michelle says, I'm a starseed, but I have accepted being human and embrace it. Now I want to live to be 100. See, that is the attitude, Michelle. That is the right attitude to have. It's just because you're starseed doesn't mean you need to be in a rush to leave. I've been here for a hot minute. It's almost like same shit, different smell sometimes. Not this time. Love that, Jessica. Someone here at work just said one of the offices needs negative energy cleared. Get an exorcist or something. I said, well, I know someone. Here, look, this person I'm listening to right now. But seriously, I need to get this place cleared. I do business clearings. If you do a property clearing, I'll check your business. Because it's not difficult to do, to just scan your property. I did a business clearing, yesterday for someone. So yeah, it's in fact, I've been planning on offering that, where I will be offering business, like advanced business clearings where I clear every single one of your employees as well. Or if you give me a list of up to 25 employees, I can just go down, put them all in a bubble and make sure everybody is sovereign. And then I can go through and make sure that everything is cleared. But you know why I did this one business clearing the other day is because somebody cursed this guy's business. His business was doing great, and all of a sudden it started tanking. And he's like, what is going on? So he hired a clearing for him and then had us check his business. And we found a curse on his business. Somebody cursed his job. Somebody cursed his business. And I was like, what the hell? Why would they do that? And they're like, he was bragging about how successful he was, and they were pissed. They just heard him say that he was just talking about how successful he's been, which is a wonderful thing. But they considered it to be bragging, and they got offended and triggered by it, and they cursed his business intentionally. So another reason why you don't want to share how blessed the universe has been making you. Yeah, it's one thing to be very grateful for what you receive, but you don't want to wave it around like a big flag so people can be jealous over it and then send you bad juju. So you'd be surprised how much of these places can be haunted just because, not even haunted, but I should say could be cursed just because the employees are not happy, because the clients are not happy. I always wonder like how these businesses that are being run into the ground by the corporates that own them are even able to survive in that regard, because think of how much suffering their employees must do. Like I was talking with a friend the other day who works for a corporation that exists in all 50 states. I don't want to say which one because I don't want to get libeled. But this one state, right, because Pennsylvania has the lowest, what was it, $7.50 an hour or something like that was the minimum wage. They give way less money. And I was like, why don't they just give a raise to the people at your business? And she goes, oh, they won't do that. And I said, why not? I said, right across the water in New Jersey, their employees are all making $15 an hour. Why would literally 15 minutes away on the other side of the river, would it be okay for them? Because there's no employees in there. None. Nobody wants to work for $7.50 an hour. So I said, why don't you just hire somebody for $10 an hour and do it that way? And you know what they said? You know what the corporate boss said? Pennsylvania makes us most of our money. We aren't going to give them a raise. No. We know how much money we save because the government didn't force people to have a higher minimum wage. So in all the states around it, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, you name it, they're all paying $15 an hour. But in Pennsylvania, they're still paying $7.25 because they can get away with it. So that's what they do. And I was like, you're a boss of this place. Like, how can you even find that acceptable? And they're like, this is just how corporate works. They're like, we can't find employees because nobody wants to work for $7.25, but they aren't willing to pay more than $7.25 an hour because it's Pennsylvania. I'm like, man, that's dirty. If you think about it, like they're saving so much money off of the backs of their own employees, and they actually consider it to be a good thing. But this is why I say, and the whole reason for this rant is the fact that you wonder why businesses get cursed in the first place. Exactly, Summer. Zero moral ethics. So if you ever feel that your business might be cursed, there is probably a good reason for it. I wouldn't say good reason, but there's obviously something has triggered somebody somewhere. Tanya says the whole county I live in needs a clearing. We got the county suing the main town. See, things like that, a lot of time there's a lot of corruption. And if you look at the town officials that are doing the corrupting, so to speak, none of them are sovereign. No. And then you get into the police force and all the other stuff. And yeah, it gets messy. So, yep, that is one of the things. And I've also noticed, like, there was a couple people that have come to me after they've had a retreat where they said, something hasn't felt right ever since this retreat that I went on or that I hosted. And then we check, and sure enough, they had attachments. So that is the plan, where I'm going to be offering business clearings, like actual business, where we go through and clear all the employees, we clear the entire business, and we can even clear like the bank accounts and all the online stuff. I actually had them test this out the other day, and I'm like, can you clear my Facebook page? They're like, yeah, we can. I'm like, how does that work? And they're like, well, we can just remove the bots. We can remove any blockages that might be on there, anything that might be restricting the reach. I was like, that's so freaking cool. They're like, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I was like, wow, I didn't even think to ask if you could clear the online accounts and clear all the internet stuff. And they're like, yeah, you can do anything. Anything you set your intention to, you can do. So you just never, it's so cool. So yeah, that is one of the things I'll be offering on my website at some point in the next few days will be business clearings and retreat clearings. So that way we can clear your retreat before you even get there or before you even set up. Because we have noticed a lot of retreats get sabotaged where the entities will literally, we've noticed this starting months ago. I mean, this happened in Colorado where Aaron had the retreat planned and everything was going very smoothly in the very beginning. But then everything started to get really weird. And we're like, what is going on? And then I checked and they were like, oh, yeah, there's a beacon on the property. There's all these entities coming in. There's all these, attachments attached to people. And we're like, Jesus, why did this happen? And they said, because they know you're trying to have a spiritual retreat. They're going to get in the way of that, of course. So that is the plan where we offer an opportunity to clear everybody that is going to the retreat. Laura, can you do a family clearing for myself and daughters? Yes, I offer family discounts. There's a family discount on there where we do 4 clearings for the price of, $333. So you save $75 basically. You can also book mass clearings. A lot of people are very curious about what each individual person has. So mass clearings are not very common, but I do offer a discount where we clear we clear 10 people for $25 each. So it's basically like if you get 10 people to pitch in $25 each, you're all cleared then. And that's the cheapest way we can do a clearing because technically all we have to do is put you all in a bubble. We just say all the names, all the guides, put you into one big bubble and they clear everything all at once. What about surgeries? Pauline said. What did you have in mind, Pauline, in regards to surgery? Thank you, Charisse. Yeah, there's my page where I offer all the different types of clearings. So there's all kinds of different ones up there. So how much is a clearing for one person? If it's the first time, then usually it's 100. And keep in mind that 10% of that immediately goes to my PayPal and Squarespace. They take 10%. PayPal takes 6%. And Squarespace takes 4%. And then I also have to pay for my my assistant and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So 20% of that goes to my admin fees, and then 40% goes to the other admin or to the other medium. So technically, yeah, for every clearing we do, we keep 40 of it. And yeah, for those clearings, they generally take about 30 minutes minimum. Is if for a child still 100? It depends. If the child is under the age of 10, I cleared them anyway. Anybody under the age of 10 in the household automatically gets a free clearing, as does your dogs. Any dogs or cats or pets, I always ask dogs, pets, and children under 10 are all cleared automatically. So if you have a child in the home that is a young child, all you have to do is just say, book a clearing for yourself and say, hey, I have a 3-year-old in the house. Can you just make sure my 3-year-old is sovereign? And I always make sure that the children are sovereign. So yeah, we want to leave the animals and the kids with anything either. So you could always just book, you know what I mean? Like I said, if it's anybody under the age of 10, and the reason for that is because people under the age of 10 are generally very quick and easy to clear. They don't normally have a lot of attachments. That young girl that we cleared the other day, the 2-year-old, we ended up doing a free psychic surgery on her as well. So sometimes when I see something is really bad, I will upgrade the clearing automatically anyway. So for that little girl, I did a free psychic surgery for her because of how bad the situation was. So I do upgrade on occasion, but I don't want to leave something in the house. So you may also find that your hubby is also in a better mood. I don't normally remove all the implants and stuff, but if you, like I said, if you only booked a clearing for yourself and then, you have a Lizzie on you and I clear it and then I say, is there any other things in the house? And they're like, oh yeah, the hubby has another Lizzie. I'm not going to leave the Lizzie on your hubby. So I just ask them, hey, remove that too, will you? But I don't go through the full protocol in that regard. I just kick out the other Lizzie and that's it. I don't go through the implants and all the other things generally. I remove all the entities from the house because what's going to be the point if I remove the Lizzie on you and there's one on the hubby, it's just going to keep jumping back and forth. But I don't normally even mention that on the report because you're not paying for that. You're paying for the report technically. Because I can clear people very quickly. It's the reports that are so time consuming. In fact, there are days where I'm up until 2 a.m. just writing reports. So this is why I say it's the reports that are technically what you're paying for, which is why I give such a steep discount for the mass clearing. Because you just get one report for everybody. Beverly says, what's a Lizzie? They're reptilian. They're technically a type of galactic being that exists at a higher frequency than us, so you can't see it. But it is still around. And yes, that is higher frequency because they are technically 4D, not 3D. So you guys will notice that these reports are going to be the most tedious thing when you start doing this work. Yep. And some people are really funny about the reports because you'll get a client here and there that want to know, like, my reports are 15 pages long, but you still get people that will ask you every question under the sun that message you and want to know like 3,000 questions about what was in the report. And they'll even ask you things that you're not allowed to technically tell them. Like people will be like, all right, I saw in my report that I had a curse on me. And you're like, yeah. And they're like, all right, who cursed me? I can't tell you that. Why not? Because you're just going to curse them back. Because as soon as you find out who cursed you, what do? You go and try and curse the person back because you're pissed that they cursed you in the first place. And we're not in the mood for that eye for an eye stuff. It just needs to be cleared. It's gone. It's water under the bridge now. It's not important. But these are the kind of questions you will get. How long is the waiting time after scheduling and clearing? For me right now, it is 10, I think it was 12 days. I have 3 mediums right now that I'm working with pretty much daily. So I am staying very well caught up. In fact, I'm getting about 10 to 15 cases a day done at this moment. So if I can get 10 to 15, because I get about 10 bookings a day right now. So I'm kind of catching up actually at the same time. But it's the family clearings that slow me down because those take 2 hours usually. It takes about 2 hours to do a family clearing. So every time I get a family clearing, it does kind of slow me down a little bit with my line, but I don't get too many of those. Most of the people that book with me are getting property clearings and just regular spirit release clearings, and those take about 30 minutes. Do you clear past life stuff as well? Big time. In fact, we were just joking earlier in the podcast about the many layers of things that we clear from past lives. And all the different things. If you guys wait till we get more into the practice version of spirit release, because in the class, I really like to do some experimentation on how deep some of these layered clearings can go. Because you'd be surprised how much of these problems you're having in this lifetime spread from other lifetimes. Like, for example, right? If we go into contracts, right? Then we say, is there a dark contract? And the guides will say, yes, there is a dark contract. And I'll say, okay, where did the dark contract come from? And a lot of times they'll say, oh, it came through the dream state where they made the agreement while they were dreaming and they didn't even know that they made the agreement. But other times they'll say, oh, it's from a past life. And I'm like, and I didn't really put too much thought into that. I'm like, okay, it's just a contract from a past life. I didn't really think too much about the fact that technically that past life is ongoing right now. So it's not technically a past life, it's a concurrent life happening in an alternate reality. And so technically, when you start getting into that alternate life, that is happening simultaneously. It's happening right now. So I asked the guys, I was like, so what happens, right? If I clear this dark contract today, but then a week from now, I go back and I find another dark contract made from a past life. How does that work? Does that mean that technically you have to be mindful of what another version of you is doing in an alternate reality? Because it still could bleed in from that lifetime? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so I'm like, wait a minute. So if that means that another version of me could be out there making dark contracts with entities, then the healing process never really fully ends because I'm not even mindful of what that other version of me is doing right now. And they're like, yeah, it still can affect you. It can still bleed into another version of you that exists. So I'm like, okay, so technically when we clear somebody's dark contract, is we clear it from this incarnation or all incarnations simultaneously? And they were like, good question, Laura. And they said it's the latter, actually. It's all timelines simultaneously. But they said, but at the same time, if another version of you were to go out and start another dark contract, then technically it will create another dark contract for every version of you that exists. So I'm like, wow, this is a lot to unpack. So this is another reason why. How many times do we say, though, that we've seen that one meme that said every time you heal yourself, you're healing other versions of yourself or even other ancestors that exist? Exactly, Adam, because it's all happening now. That is what it all boils down to. So yeah, what you do in this reality can actually go and heal other versions of yourself, even dating back to like Atlantis. Like, just because it was 12,000 years ago in one reality doesn't mean it's not happening right this second in another reality. So you can gain and forgive karma all at once. Yes, Adam, exactly. So, I mean, this is why it does. It pickles my brain a little bit sometimes when I'm trying to understand the nature of reality and the many layers that exist across all these different frequencies. And so, could a clearing interrupt the intended lesson of the contract? You know what's interesting about that, Beverly, and that's a really good question. We have actually asked, like, a lot of people are wondering when we ask the higher self, and the higher self says no, not to do the clearing. That almost never happens. And the reason for that, and I did ask the guides, how come the higher self doesn't say no when there is a lesson involved, right? Like, even though there is a really difficult soul lesson happening right now, they'll still allow me to come in and do the clearing. And I was like, why, would I be allowed to do the clearing then if the clearing was supposed to be teaching a lesson, if the attachment, I should say, was supposed to be teaching them a lesson? And they said, because if the lesson hasn't been learned, the attachment's going to come right back again anyway. It's like cutting a cord with a toxic ex-boyfriend, right? Where you can sit there and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to cut this cord. I'm never going to talk to him again. And then you cut the cord, right? And you're like, I feel so much better. His energy is disconnected from mine. Fantastic. And then you look down at your phone a few days later and he's calling you. And you're like, shit, what do I do? Do I continue? Do I block him and say, no, you can't talk to me. I'm not ever going to talk to you again? Or do you answer the phone call? Because if you answer the phone call, bam, that cord's coming right back again. So the same thing would happen with an entity, where if you are meant to have some kind of a demonic entity attached for learning purposes, as soon as we clear it, you're going to call another one back. And just like with the cord, because if you haven't learned the lesson with the toxic ex in the first place, then that cord is going to keep coming back no matter how many times I cut it for you. So it is you that has to decide to block that call and to never answer that call again. It is up to you to decide when and if that cord will ever form itself again. Because if that person tries to reach out to you and you're like, nope, that happened to me during Mercury retrograde. I had an ex-boyfriend try and call me, and he called me 3 times and sent me a bunch of text messages. And I was like, not today, Satan. Like, No, you are not getting that cord back from me. Do you have any idea how long it took me to keep that cord from reattaching? In fact, you know what my guide said to me? I said to him, is that damn cord back again? This was like last year when we were still kind of on again, off again talking. And they said, yeah, the cord is back. And I was like, God damn it, I could feel it because I could sense like his anxiety through the damn cord. I was like, why do I feel anxious? And I'm like, oh yeah, that damn cord is back, isn't it? Because he's like a nervous puppy. So I asked the guides, I'm like, why is this damn cord coming back? And they said, because it has a magnetic end to it, Laura. Like literally, it was like a magnet. As soon as you go anywhere near thinking about him, boom, cord is back. So no, if you're not done with the lesson, then it's going to keep coming back. No matter how many times you cut it, no matter how many times you clear it, it's going to keep coming back. So yeah, this is the problem and why you need to set boundaries with people and why a lot of us are trying to heal a lot of the issues in regards to other people karmically. Big part of that is the boundaries and not letting us to reestablish those cords. Blake says, are cords only one way or does it affect both people? It's both ways. Think of it like an extension cord, right? Or like a lead between two computers, right? Where you're syncing the two computers. If you unplug even just one end, it's cut off, you know? But as soon as you reconnect it for whatever purpose, as soon as you start thinking about that person or reaching out to that person, bam, you might as well be plugging that cord back in. And so what about cords with people that have passed over? Those are the first thing I cut. Those are the first thing. In fact, I cleared somebody the other day. They said, we've been having a really hard time healing from a loss in the family. They lost their fur baby. And so I checked and I said, the first thing I asked the guides when I checked the house was, are there any earthbound pets? Yes. Is her pet still in the house? Yes. Is there a cord still attached to the pet? Yes. That is why she couldn't heal. That is why she was sobbing all the time and why it was very difficult for her to move on from the loss of the pet. Was one, because she could feel the pet's energy around her. And it made her, it's like trying to talk to somebody when you've got a pain in between you, like you've got a block in between. So this is one of those things where if there is a cord, then there is a give and take of that energy. And for people that have lost a loved one, you're feeling all of that from that deceased person. However that person feels, if they're an earthbound, for example, then you're feeling their confusion. You're feeling their sadness. You're feeling their anger, their frustration. So if this is another reason why, and get this, right? Almost every single time somebody books an earthbound check with me, every single time. In fact, I don't think I've found even one case where this wasn't it. There's always a cord to the person who booked the session. Always. I've done hundreds and hundreds of earthbound checks. I've never once found there to be no cords for the earthbound. So if somebody hasn't crossed over and you're constantly thinking about that person, it's because there is a cord that is still attached. So that is why, if you notice with my Lost Soul Rescues, that is one of the very first things I ask, is there a cord? Because once you cut that cord, you are no longer being energetically drained by that person. It's a siphon. Sometimes the cords can look, like I said at the beginning, they can be as thin and wispy as a spider web. Some of them can be as thin and wispy as a single human hair, right? That is how thin some of the cords can be. But some of them can be so thick, they look like an extension cord, like one of those big, thick, triple prong extension cords. It can look like that. And some of the cords are black. That is how we know if it's a good cord or a bad cord, because the energy is balanced between them. We don't cut the positive cords. Everybody has positive cords with the people they love. You have them with your children, you have them with your hubby, you have them with your parents, because the people you love, you have a give and take of energy, kind of like how trees nurture each other. You know how we talk about how if a tree gets sick and then all the other trees have that root system where they start feeding that energy to that tree to kind of keep it alive? We do that energetically, where if this person is feeling low, we send them extra energy. And if they're feeling great and happy, then we're sharing in that and we oscillate each other higher. This is why when you get with family members that truly understand you and are happy and high vibe, you feel great around them, because the cord energy that you have between you is balanced and it's high vibrational and it just feels good. But if you have a black cord between somebody, like let's say you have a spouse that doesn't appreciate you and you're always feeling drained, he pulls in the driveway and you're like, oh God, he's back again. That kind of thing. You have a black cord between you. Because if you have that black cord between you, that means somebody is taking extra from one person and the other person is not getting enough. So it's kind of like how in the womb there can be like one twin that's just taking all the nutrients. And so the other twin is kind of missing out. And then you end up having one baby that is like born weighing like 3 pounds and the other baby is born weighing like 8 pounds. It's kind of like that, where there's just not a balance in the give and take. And one is taking more from the other. And that is why the cord has to be cut, because otherwise it's not fair. It's not fair to you to be having all that energy sapped from you. In fact, it was a joke when we were doing clearings, the last Lost Soul Rescue. We were talking about Uncle Louie. He's my son's father's uncle. And so we were talking with Uncle Louie, and he had something like, I can't remember how many cords, but it was a lot of cords. And I made a joke where I don't think he's ever, one of the mediums said, I don't think he's ever severed a cord and for anyone he's ever met in his entire life. Some people are like that, where every person they meet, they establish a cord with that person. And I joked, I'm like, well, maybe it's because Uncle Louie thinks they owe him money. And that's why he's never cut any of the cords. But this is why I say some people, especially men, those of you who do not practice any spiritual hygiene or anything like that, will end up having a lot more cords. In fact, most men I find have more than 50 cords. Because if you don't tell a man that he has to go and cut his cords and to visualize the cords cutting, then he'll have hundreds sometimes. Especially if he's a busybody at work. Like, if you've got a husband that likes to kind of get involved in other people's business and he's kind of nosy and likes to get into all the work drama, you won't believe the amount of cords that man is coming home with. A lot. Just seeing them will not reconnect the cord. Having a negative interaction with them will, though. Yes, Jordan, exactly. Just seeing somebody is not enough. It's the emotions that cause the cord to settle. So if you have an emotional reaction to someone, that is what they use emotions as the bridge, basically. And that's the same for entities, too. This is why Jesus always said, turn the other cheek. If somebody slaps you, you turn the other cheek. You don't rise to the occasion, because you don't want to have that emotional bridge for them to jump to, so to speak. So if somebody tries to trigger you and they don't succeed, they were trying to set a cord and they failed. In fact, this is discussed quite a lot in this one book. Where is it? Light Emerging. This is a great book. Where's that one section of it? Ha! This is a perfect depiction of this, right? So you get the one person who's trying to establish cords. Look, she's trying to start a fight. And what happens? He says, no. He's put his arms together. He says, fuck your drama. I don't want it. So he's blocked it. But if you look over here, he fell for it. This guy said, fine, you can do it. You can, he rose to the occasion. So this is the difference between somebody setting a boundary and somebody who's not setting a boundary. You see what I mean? And this is why so often the guides are saying set boundaries with people. And bubble up, shield up. Go to the record if you guys are interested. This is Light Emerging by Barbara Ann Brennan. Her books are phenomenal. And they're so good at just explaining the basics of why people are able to affect us the way they do. This is someone emo dumping. See, when you emo dump on somebody, you affect their energy. See, she's feeling better because she's able to absorb energy from him. But look at him. He's not feeling better, is he? So this is what energy vampires do. So you don't even know they're doing it. And then you wonder why you feel absolutely drained and exhausted after interaction with them. That is why. What about shielding up and the possible consequences of closing your heart chakra, though? Possible consequences. You're supposed to close your heart chakra down in certain areas. This is where empaths go wrong, for the record, okay? Your chakras open and close as needed. They expand and contract all the time, all day long, right? So as they expand and contract, they pull in more energy. As it expands, you're pulling in more. As it contracts and closes, you're creating more of a block, a barrier. This is why whenever an empath goes out in public, they can easily be overstimulated because they're pulling all of this attention and energy in without knowing it. So that is why in my psychic protection course that I'm teaching in May 4th, this is what I'll teach you guys to do, to lock down your chakras and to block that outside energy so you're able to kind of lock down your own energy and not have all of that affecting you. So I will share a link for that. So if you guys are interested, May 4th, I will be doing a big in-depth discussion all about psychic protection and spiritual hygiene. And this is a big part of psychic protection. So if anybody is interested, May the 4th be with you. That's exactly why I chose that date, Daniel. I was like, I have to do a psychic defense course on May 4th. So yes, this is going to be important for those of you who are empathic, those of you who are very, sensitive to energy, and you do not have to take it live. You can still learn everything from the recording. This is not a certification course, but it is a prerequisite for spirit release. So if you guys are going to be joining my spirit release course, it is essential that you joined at least one of my psychic protection classes. So it could have been one of my astral projection and protection classes in the past, or it could be this new psychic protection and spiritual hygiene class. It's entirely up to you which one you take. But just one psychic protection course is required for the spirit release course, which is why I'm doing this one next. So we did the Reiki training, so you guys know how to self-heal. We're going to be doing the psychic protection and spiritual hygiene, so you guys know how to handle yourselves and know how to protect yourselves and do your astral defense. And then we're going to do the introduction to spirit release, and I'll teach you guys everything about what I clear and why we clear it. And we'll go down several rabbit holes doing that as well. That'll be a 2-day class. And I'll be doing that, I believe, the second to last week of May. So 2 weeks is kind of what the classes are apart. Do you have a link for the spirit release course as well? Not yet. I'm focusing on one class at a time so I don't get overwhelmed and get my students confused and mixed up. How much is the new class? $33 as usual. If it's a certification course or a 1-day course, then I only usually charge $33. But this one's not a certification course, so I'm not charging $100 for it. The reason we charged $111 for the Reiki is because we had the course and then we had 3 attunements to go with it. So that was a lot of work. Plus we had to send out the certificates and everything. That was a lot more intensive and time consuming. Like triple the amount of time. So yeah. Will your students experience the attacks y'all spoke of when you were doing your first SRT training? Well, there's some things I noticed about other people's training. I'm not going to say any names, but you know what they say. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Because the things that I would have implemented in order to protect the students better have fallen on deaf ears. And I don't know if you guys notice, I have very strong mother bear type energy. Like I'm very protective over my peoples. In fact, I have some strategies that I'm going to employ to make sure that you guys are staying sovereign. Because I'm well aware that when you start getting into this work, it's like they try and trip you up. They want you to end up getting scared. So this is why it's very important that we look after each other. We protect each other. Summer says, the certificate is beautiful. Going to print mine off today. Wonderful, Summer. Thank you for the compliment. So, but yes, I'm very protective. If you guys hadn't noticed, I love you guys very much. And I'm not fucking around when it comes to your safety. So yes, you guys will be safer in my course than any other so far. Because like I said, I'm going to be going above and beyond to make sure my peoples are okay. Because this is something that I've noticed before that was not happening and it's not okay. Nope. Because it's kind of like when you are trying to train new recruits, the new recruits are going to get picked on. And so what do? You back up your recruits, you back up your people, and we are stronger together. So this is one of many reasons why we have to look out for each other as a group. And that is going to be a lot easier to do the bigger the group gets. So with every class and with every, group of graduates that we have, the safer our community gets. And the more expansive things get in regards to the ripple effects that we're going to be making. So if you think about it, I may have only cleared 3,000 people out of 8 billion people on the planet. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but if you think about it over the grapevine and how things expand and grow, if I were to train 3,000 students in that time, that could end up being 300,000 clearings. So we'll just start from wherever we need to start. Any other questions in regards to this? Like I said, if you guys are interested in the psychic protection and spiritual hygiene course, I'll share that link for you guys one more time. And there's also, if you don't want to wait, there are other links up there. You can take my astral projection courses up there as well. Laura, I just want to know, how do you know that if you are an energy vampire? Alec. Well, to be fair, Alec, you have to take into account that everybody shares energy all the time, right? It's normal to share energy. In fact, sometimes people don't even recognize they're doing it. They do it all day long. So if you have a conversation with somebody and you feel really good after that conversation, then generally there is a balanced give and take, right? But if you're talking to somebody, and this mostly happens when somebody is emo dumping, right? This is almost always what happens when somebody calls you up just to vent about something, right? If they ask you and they say, are you able to hold space for this today? Are you able to listen to me rant a little bit? And they say, yeah, I can hold space for that. That just means I'm in a great mood. And if you want to vent a little bit, feel free. I can offer some advice. But if somebody calls you up just to bitch and complain and spread their misery, then they're trying to feed off of other people. It's almost like I hate using the word Karen because I have so many friends named Karen and I absolutely love them to pieces. But, the stereotypical person that comes in looking to start a fight at a business or something like that, somebody who intentionally makes everybody kind of feel like the air got sucked out of the room when they come in the room, that is an energy vampire. Somebody who shifts the frequency of the whole room and lowers the vibration of the space and takes energy from other people. So how do you know if you are that person? Well, generally how people respond to you. If people try and, kind of set boundaries with you, there's a reason why they're trying to set boundaries with you. And if there's a time when people don't want to answer your call, like if some people just ignore you and they don't want to talk to you, it could be because they've overshared a lot of their energy with you already. So if people are generally excited to talk to you and you don't have to chase them around, then generally most people feel really good around you and then you're not an energy vampire at all. But just keep in mind that everybody has their off days. Everybody has their days where they feel like crap, and then the people around them bring them back up, right? They cheer you up. Oh, thank you for cheering me up. How do you think you got cheered up in the first place? Somebody gave you some of their high vibe energy. Somebody brought some of their high vibe energy into your frequency, and it transmuted the negative stuff into something more positive. But this is also why you will see people who will be completely miserable and then they take it out on somebody else and then they feel great. They're like, oh, I just chewed out this young girl in a cashier. Right? I just cheered out this young cashier because I had a bad morning, but all of a sudden I feel fine. It's like, yeah, well, you just gave that cashier all of your bad juju and now she's giving you her good juju and you don't realize this. So this is why they talk about refilling your cup so much and making sure that you're not overdoing it, where you're not giving so much of your energy to the point where you're being drained of energy and your cup is empty and everybody else is running around with a full cup and you're like, oh my God. This is why givers need to set limits, because takers rarely do, as the quote says. So setting those boundaries is very important. Knowing how to recognize when somebody is sapping your energy and when there are cords you have to cut. I had a cord with a spam caller the other day. For example, I had the spam caller call me And I got triggered by the call. And it's a long story as to why I've been triggered by this call. Like, I don't owe this one company anything. They said I never returned my router. I have returned my router. I mailed them the router. I had a big fuss about the stupid router. And now they're trying to say I owe them $100 because of it. And so they triggered me because they keep calling me back. And I could feel my anxiety and my frustration as I'm arguing with this woman. And as I hang up the phone, I could feel the cord. I was like, oh, no. And I came in here and I grabbed my little crystal machete and I cut that shit. So you'd be surprised. You can have it with anybody. Anybody can establish a cord. All they have to do is piss you off and they got you. Okay. So this is why I say stoic. Not letting people trigger you. Not letting these things get under your skin. That is the best way to protect yourself. Blake says, in my experience, setting boundaries makes me look like an asshole, but I need to learn to do it. Well, this is the problem, is that when you start setting boundaries with people that you didn't have boundaries with before, they're like, what the hell? How dare you set a boundary with me? I was able to walk all over you before. I'm pissed because they can't walk all over you anymore. So that's why in most cases, if somebody truly loves you and cares for you, they want you to have strong boundaries. They don't want you to have people, treating you like you're a pushover. Are there any crystals that are best used with Reiki? The most underappreciated crystal in regards to Reiki is clear quartz. Clear quartz is a phenomenal crystal and people do not use it enough. So it works on all the different chakras. Clear quartz is amazing. And if you want to use one for protection, smoky quartz is also really good. I've always got a smoky around somewhere for protection. My favorite for the root chakra is carnelian. That is my favorite root. This is what a carnelian cherry is, they call them. This is one of my favorite crystals. In fact, this is the first one I ever bought, actually. And so if you can find a nice carnelian for the root, it is also really good. I've been getting all kinds of different ones, though. Like all the quartzes. Quartz is just amazing. Quartz, like I said, you get it in all different colors for a reason. You even get like blue quartz and like green quartz and all these other quartzes that most people don't even know about existing. I've had bad experiences with customers at work working in retail, and when I take care of other customers, I feel drained and unfortunately can't give my best. I still do my job respectfully, but you can tell I'm down, and there's some customers that have beautiful energy to them and they lift me up, and that's how I know the creator got me. I cheer up. Exactly. Esther, honey, you are an empath. That is a stereotypical definition of an empath. You are absorbing the energy of other people and sharing energy with other people. And that is what all empaths do. Because this is how you read people. Empaths read people all the time. This is how we can tune in to our friends when we know they're sad. This is how we can sense when our children need something. This is how we are able to tell if somebody is just walking past us is having a bad day. Empaths are very powerful, very sensitive people. But the problem is, if you're not able to recognize when other people are affecting your energy, you can be drained like that. One customer can drain all of your energy in 2 minutes. They know right where the release valve is, if you know what I mean. They just, whoop, and the next thing you know, all of that energy. And I've seen people's cords. Like I talked about those thick extension cords. I have seen cords that literally look like a pipe. It looks like a thick pipe going from one person to another. That is how thick some of these cords can be. Can you imagine how much energy that person is stealing when they have a pipe to that other person's etheric? In crazy amount of energy. I used clear quartz, rose quartz, and selenite yesterday while getting attunement. I also had my organite pendulum close by too. Perfect summer. Great choice. I really love that, by the way. Honestly, that is one of the best choices you could have because clear quartz works on all the chakras. Rose quartz helps to power up your heart chakra, which is the one that really affects all the other chakras the most. Your heart is right in the center, and therefore it really does have the most effect on all the other chakras in a line. And then organite will keep transmuting all of that. Any negative energy that may rise to the surface is instantly transmuted. In fact, the soul guides reminded me the other day, they're like, Laura, you should be talking about organite more because entities really, really hate it. I was like, you're right. Good point. They're like, just make sure that it's real organite because the fake stuff, the stuff that people buy on Amazon is not real organite. It has to be kind of made properly. But if it is, it's powerful for removing any negative energy from the space. I love Organite. In fact, I got a bunch of it. Michelle's always got some really cool Organite for sale. Where's my Organite with Michelle? Here's one. You guys should totally get some Organite from Michelle. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that lovely? It's got lapis lazuli in there. Michelle, you should totally drop your link right now for your Organite shop. And look at the flower of life at the bottom. I love that. I should say the seed of life. Put them a few feet apart. Yes, this is why I like to have the smaller ones that Michelle made. Like some of these are really cute. Like I love the egg one that you made, Michelle. I still have that one. You can put a grid around you, and all these little Organites will make quite a bit of difference, especially if you have it kind of around your desk and things as well. So this is one of the things I'll be discussing, though. We'll be talking about crystals a lot in the spiritual hygiene and psychic protection course. There is Michelle's shop. Make sure that you guys go and pick out. She makes a wonderful Organite and cord cutters. So if you guys don't have any Organite and the guide said, get some Organite and put it next to your bed in your report, that is why. Organite is amazing for transmuting negative stuff into positive. Where can I buy real Organite? Well, there you go. So Michelle makes some. You can go on Etsy as well, but the most important thing is to make sure that there are copper in it. When you see the copper flakes, you want the copper in there. She's got selenite in there. You can't really see, but those are selenite bars on the bottom to make sure it's recharging. You do want selenite in there to make sure that it's going, the symbols are also very helpful for the protection. As you can tell, this is also clear quartz tumblestone in the top. It's actually more like a milky quartz, but same difference. So you guys can also make your own. I know Daniel Jackson. I was literally having a discussion with somebody about it last night because I haven't made Organite. And I said to them, I owe Daniel Jackson a really big fancy piece because I told him I was going to send him one like months ago. And then I got so busy and distracted and I haven't made Organite since. So that is actually my plan this weekend, Daniel Jackson, is to make you a really fancy pyramid. I have I have crystals that I ordered, and I have a new fancy pyramid mold that is a big pyramid mold. So since Daniel Jackson has been waiting for so long for his Organite, I'm sending you a nice one. So this is why I say that you guys can make your own. Like I've discussed it before. This is what I made. It's literally just powdered shungite, powdered iron mixed with resin, and then I poured copper balls in there. That's what the flakes are. Is the copper balls. It's literally just a lotus mode. And I keep this fully charged because I have some selenite that I keep with it. So I keep that fully charged, keep it with the selenite like that. And that fits over my router, which is literally like a foot to my left here. So yeah, if you keep that over your router, shungite is very important to keep over your electronics. So Organite pendants are also very good for protection. If you have a hubby that goes to work and he comes home miserable every day, get him an Organite pendant. Just make sure it's a good one. Can spirits see the stone's aura? Well, what happens is you are making the environment more high vibrational, right? And it's the higher the vibration, the less hospitable the environment is for a low vibe entity. So that is the name of the game, is raising your personal frequency high so they can't attach to you. By raising the vibration of your home and your space, by bringing flowers into the space, by bringing crystals into the space, by smudging the space, by keeping everything nice and clean and clear, you are keeping your environment high vibrational, which is creating a bubble of protection around you even further. So, but like I said, we'll talk about this a lot more. I don't want to give too much detail considering this is going to be a 3-hour class and I've got a lot of information to go off about that. Don't forget to answer my message about this, please. Chantal, did I miss something? There's been a lot of comments popping up. I'm sending you a gift. My first painting I have done in 33 years. It is of you I saw in a dream 3 days ago. So there. Oh, Daniel Jackson. Oh my God. I would love that. That is so cool. I would totally love that. So we could do swapsies. Yay. Summer says, yes, I started out in a field of wildflowers while the sun warmed me. Then I moved to beautiful flowering creek with a large altar stone in the middle, and I stayed on the stone, and the angels and guides came to me, and a woman gave a beautiful yellow daisy. Oh, that's lovely, Summer. I love hearing what happens in people's attunements. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry I had to miss it because of the Ramara chat yesterday, but Tina told me all about it. She sat me down afterward and told me everything that I missed. So I won't be missing any of it tonight, though. We will be having an attunement as well this evening, and I'm very excited about it. So anyway, it's 11:30, and I need to take my kid out to the market. We're gonna go to the Amish market today and get a bunch of goodies. I told my little guy I would, considering he's on his Easter holiday. So if you shop with me, here you go. If you're buying any organite from Michelle's shop, there you go. You use code 11 for 11% off. Very nice of you, Michelle. Love that. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you all have a magical day. And if you guys need anything, feel free to drop me a message. Charisse has been doing a phenomenal job with helping me keep up with messages. So I'm also going to get my hair done, Jessica, because I'm going to Scotland. I've got one more week with me, and then I'm gone for a week because I'm going to Edinburgh to do some ghost busting. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to de-haunt all of the ghost hunts in Edinburgh. Watch me. They're going to be like, it's not as spooky as it used to be. I wonder why. Maybe it's because dead people are not being exploited for money anymore. Imagine that. So all those plague victims that are stuck under Edinburgh, they're getting crossed over. That is the plan. Marcella's here. Hi, honey. I can't wait to see you. Laura, those ghost hunts will be boring now. Well, that is the point. Yes. Yes, they're not going to be exploiting dead people anymore for money. It's going to be wonderful. I can't wait. So I love you all. I hope you all have a magical Easter, everybody. Make sure, and 420 as well. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be celebrating that more than Easter. I'm not going to lie. I love you guys. I hope you have the most magical weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. See you soon. Bye, guys.